Welcome everyone, Dylan Box, back for another installment. Last time we kind of eviscerated Dylan and the Dead, so we promised to be kinder with our newest selection here. I'm your co-host, Brian Harsch, and with me is...
I'm LeRoy, and we have a third partner in this one, and that's...
Patrick Judy.
Hey guys.
Patrick Judy is with us too. So, what are we looking at today that we're going to be nice with?
Well, let's see. This was a new thing that came out in the midst of the pandemic, I believe, and it was a nice welcome surprise. So we have for everyone today, Murder Most Foul.
Oh, there we go.
So pop that right up there.
JFK.
So there was a big, long single. This kind of came right out, I believe, end of March, April-ish, and about 17 minutes long. Just came out as a single, promised to be part of an album, which we'll talk about another time. What were your thoughts? What did you think when this came out?
When it came out, it was just stunning because, like David Bowie's last album, I always like when there's a surprise. You know, folks usually will, with Dylan, there's so much, Dylan informants that even if he goes walks by a studio, people will say Dylan's working on a new album and it's in Studio B and these are the people and he's planning to do these songs. No one knew anything about this, and then he said there's a new Dylan single, and you're pretty excited about that. I said, well, there's new content from Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. Then I heard the song, and I wasn't prepared for the length of it. When I first listened to it, I did not know that it was that long. And just the length of it is some notoriety for that. And as the song unfolded, for me, that very first time, I was saying to myself, and I'm a lifelong Dylan fan, and followed every move in his career. And so I'm in a new place. I'm in a new spot. Here's this person of whatever age. How old is our friend now?
He's about to be 80, I believe.
Okay. Here's our young friend at 80, churning out a music that that was new for me. There's a restlessness to it. It's at the beginning. It seems like it's hardly even forming. And I think the listener that I am kind of hears the music first and then starts to absorb the words. But as the words started to come through in this story, especially as it seems to kind of, at the beginning, to form around JFK's assassination. Even in the middle of that, I wasn't sure that's the whole point of the song. And then by the second half of the last third of the song, I thought he launched into a completely different kind of storytelling that I found very compelling. And immediately I wanted to go back and listen to it again because it was just a stunning opening. I mean, how many artists can shock you again and again? And as someone who's that old, to still have this creative power to get something rolling. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was great to hear something original, some original content. Because, like you said, it got me excited because we hadn't really. The last three albums, I think, were all covers or they're like standards and things. So it almost seemed like he was warming up for this. But yeah, when I heard it, it was like the English major immediately latched on to how literate this thing was. And just how, like you said, he was telling this story, but then he was almost making it seem timeless in a lot of ways. He definitely gave you a setting, but then he dropped in a lot of references. Yeah. One thing I remember right after this came out, and I think it's still available, there was a playlist available on Spotify where you can have all the stuff he referenced throughout the song. He's talking about all kinds of things. There's a playlist made out of all those songs.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
If you had a month to sit down.
Hey, I think we did after that. We had a little bit of time, so it was very timely, though, I felt, and it came at the right moment when the country was unsure. I don't want to compare it to that day in 1963 because I wasn't alive, but it was, maybe this moments in history that kind of echo each other in terms of the feeling and how kind of solemn people were and how scared and how unsure of what would happen next. and with it being right when the country started basically literally shutting down, and everything we had, live music we were talking about and everything else, that unsurety was really echoed in the music.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a downer or anything. It was just exultant in the fact that Dylan's back and he's doing this and he's got a message, and it's
seems to be timely. It seems
absolutely.
to be. It's kind of speaking to the now, of which all his best songs seem to do that, no matter when you're listening to them. How about you, Patrick Judy? When you first heard "Murder Most Foul," what was that first impression?
I was like, wow, and I was exhausted by the time it was done. I mean, I was amazed. I really wasn't sure if it was at first whether it was an older song that they were just now releasing. His voice sounded really good though, but I felt part of his could be autobiographical, and did start out with the Kennedy assassination, and then it worked its way up to another couple of time periods. It seemed like it worked its way back to that point though, at some certain parts, and I did feel that there was a certain bitterness too at some points, like don't worry, we got your replacement.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
lines like that.
Yeah. That it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. That it does seem to kind of start with that assassination, and then to move in some other spaces, but the last images are still back on the tarmac or something, where it's just kind of this last comment, and that just the notion of this murder most foul. It seems like a sort of a damnation of something that trying to address a wound that will never heal.
Right.
Because I'm older than you
Sure.
guys, a lot of people look at the Challenger. Where were people when
That was mine.
the Challenger exploded? It's certainly 911. Where people were watching TV and how that played out across the country and this instant impact. Those are two modern versions. In '63, I was in third grade, and it literally stopped the country in its tracks. And there's been other tragedies in our country, but it seemed to be a modern tragedy and we've had presidents assassinated before,
Right.
But it seemed like that was like a history book kind of thing. This couldn't happen to us now, and it couldn't happen, to
in our time that we saw this, right?
It really froze. It just froze people in space, and they didn't have a response. And then all the things in Oswald and all these other shootings, it just seemed unsolved. And it didn't seem like a song that tried to solve an assassination as much as say, have we ever recovered from this moment in time? Has our country ever recovered? And was it a Pandora's box that opened up, and we're still paying the price for this murder most foul?
That's how we deal with trauma.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, to me, it makes it sound a lot of times like a mob hit kind of in the song. So yeah, you're right though. He doesn't really, you're expecting an 18-minute song about JFK assassination to kind of lock the whole thing up and take care of the conspiracy theories. But maybe it leaves open more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Which
He
is okay.
definitely didn't hold back there. I mean, they shot him down like a dog, and I mean, he definitely didn't hold back.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's fallen on the side of which a lot of people, was there anyone who was not shooting from the grassy knoll? All 150 people. But at that moment in time, even with the Zapruder film, and it's that when there's a tragedy in someone's life, sometimes there's a little bit of distraction in dealing with what you have to do with the death, or there's the planning for a funeral, or there's all these other pieces that for a moment sort of take you away from that first snap, that first bullet, that first moment in time. And I think he just picked a very interesting symbol to go back and say, I'm going to write a song about this, because and that's something, we don't know when he wrote this song, but it seems like I'm going to use this symbol as a whole kind of unraveling of America. And yet there's elements of humor. There's, you say it's not a total bummer. It's just sort of a rumination on what came forth from this moment, and that maybe we were never the same country. I sort of felt like that, even as a young kid. In some ways, I don't think we ever really recovered from that shock, and that we were then now vulnerable. And it wasn't just, are the Russians going to come get us, or all those other political things and whatnot. It was just, there was an innocence at that time that got smothered, that got snuffed, and that feeling, I hadn't thought about that in years until I heard that song, and I go, this really was a Pandora's box, and some of the evils that came from that, or that created it, those things are still with us. And that's one of the things that I find is very fascinating about this song. Is we don't know when he recorded it. I mean, there might be more information about that.
I remember looking some of it up, and it said people were saying anywhere from up to 8 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm not. I mean, that's just all the. Of course, in the Dylan fan base, you're going to have a lot of people guessing. So you really don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't indicate anywhere in the liner notes when this was recorded. I'm guessing maybe just a couple years ago before it was released. Yeah. Because Dylan always seems to be ahead of the game in terms of
throughout the whole album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that response to it, I think I got hold of my friend Gary. I said, Gary, you got to hear this. Have you heard this Dylan thing? No. I go, no. You have to hear this. And so, this is what all Dylan people do to each other. No, you have to come in, sit. You have to sit down here. You have to listen to a 17-minute thing. Don't talk.
What do you think it means?
Don't talk. Don't think. Don't do it. You have to hear this thing. I'll turn it loud so you can hear every nuance. But I think a lot of folks were doing that. And there's a wonderful article that Greil Marcus wrote for his real life top 10 that now shows up. It's now in Los Angeles in the Salon magazine. No, not Salon magazine. It's actually the LA, out of the LA Times. They have a weekly magazine section that he writes online for. But if you go and track down the Greil Marcus real life top 10 stuff, about a month after it comes out, he has a couple really, really great takes about it. And the most interesting moment that he shares is that it just brought so many people back together to think about Bob Dylan, to think about a song. When is it that a song would be so important that people start talking about it? Songs aren't so important now, unfortunately. They're just fodder. They're just things that are floating through. Ear candy, commercial, it's this and this is that. It doesn't hit people in the heart. Well, for a little moment in time, everybody was trying to figure, what's this song about? What are all these references? And he said it was almost like a campfire. It was like a national campfire where Dylan turns this thing out. And for this little moment in time, the people who value who he is got together and just sat around the campfire and started telling what they thought it meant. And there's no two people on the planet are going to be able to say what this song means entirely.
And that's great art, because sometimes you funnel yourself through the art, and then that's a reflection of you, ultimately, right? I mean, so that's kind of, everybody's going to have their own take on a song, much like a lot of his other songs.
Yeah. But that notion that we really, at a moment in time, everyone was around that campfire when they first heard that song. Because I remember, Patrick, that you told me, you listen to it and you go, okay, now I have to listen to this again to see what it means, right? Did you sit? I mean, did you go 17 minutes and then I'm bad at math, 34 minutes, do it again, or did you wait a few days?
Yeah, something like that. I had to decipher it all because, a lot of it was the Kennedy assassination in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he mentions Wolfman Jack and a couple other references. Yeah. Well, he actually does that in several of the songs on the album. But
Yeah. When he gets to the album, you see where the two things kind of intersect.
Of
But
pop culture.
but the Wolfman Jack is that's the demarcation.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, it's like he's kind of telling this story, and it's a little sloppy, and the rhymes aren't. It doesn't seem as clever at the beginning. You're thinking, okay, he's going with
He
this.
comes off like making it sound like American Pie a little bit. 'Cause
It's-
that's for some. I read some things people were comparing the two in some ways.
Right. Well,
with all the
it's just-
references. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
you know.
but it wasn't. It was telling this story, and I go, is he just going to make a story about there's a lot of people that shot Kennedy?
Right.
That's not going to be an
Who did
interesting
it?
song. Yeah, who did
Yeah.
it? So it starts off as a who did it, and then comes Wolfman Jack, and how he moves across to that, and then uses Wolfman Jack as this late night voice. There's this connector to everything else, as though Wolfman Jack is the center, this beacon, or this,
Mhm.
the eye of Sauron,
Right,
you know,
right.
that all this information is going to go out, him calling out in the night, and it could be any of these songs, and then here come the songs and the references to people, to pop culture, to all these different songs and just lines and pieces, and it's that montage that happens after that is where the magic of that song is, because you're sort of transported, because every person who's hearing these, some of the references they're going to get, some people you have to go look it up and say, what is this even about? Oh, this is a Scottish drum
Right.
song, the last reference, and
Yeah.
I think that's where the magic of the song starts, is with Wolfman Jack. Is people are freed up to make this sort of free associations that
It
creates a power to it.
it seems to it's interesting, like it being like a Dylanologist in a way. Like when he said he wrote Rolling Stone, like Rolling Stone, he wrote it in Fever Dream, and he wrote so many pages. Like if he had done the song the way it originally was, it would have been like 15, 20 minutes at least. So it seems to me like in a way this song could have been like kind of like a fever dream, but it's way more structured. It's held together a lot better. But I love how it's just one solid work from beginning to end. And even when you think it's going to fall apart because of the music in the background, it's kind of mirrors what's going on. It's almost not there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like he could be saying this in front of an open mic somewhere, and there's just the background music, and that's all you're
In a
hearing.
way, I think when I first sort of felt that way. How about you, Patrick? Did it seem like the music was sort of meandering, or did it have a form for you?
A little bit of form. I mean, in the beginning, it had the soft piano and not much. The album seems to be focused mostly on his vocals, though.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I mean, there's definitely instruments there, but it seems like they're in the in the background.
They're in the background, and I think they kind of surge. At the beginning, it almost appears formless in a way, to where there's these long chords that are stretched out, and then slowly it starts to kind of gather a momentum, and you realize there actually is a bit of a chord structure to it, and that there is some interplay between how he's saying things and how this music kind of rolls up underneath it. So it's almost like an ocean. It's almost like something's floating
Waves.
on top of an ocean, that sometimes the ocean picks up and sometimes it fades away.
Kind of hear the violin coming and going in certain parts.
Yeah.
Where it gets louder. And
That call and response that he has, where his vocal and that this band that almost seems non-existent starts to become existent, and then they kind of, that last little part of it, is probably the closest you have to the song.
Surge.
That surge, and they kind of then.
But it's very subtle. It's not like a surge in most songs,
Yeah.
Like the Beatles song.
Yeah.
You know it's there. It's just
It's not,
his
no,
way.
no, no, no. It
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
happen that way.
It's not Day in the Life or anything. Like Hey Jude, right? Like it's just what he does, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
what he
what he
does
does.
now. It's
Mhm.
what he does now. It's interesting if Murder Most Foul was written, and could have been written,
Mm-hmm.
when like a Rolling Stone.
Right.
And if you switch those things to say, okay, he had this fever dream, what would it be as the Rolling Stone version that was broke down to the structure of a song?
Could he have edited this? I don't think so. I mean, maybe in his mind, maybe not.
Yeah.
Right? Because he hasn't had many songs this long. I mean, Highlands, right? which is almost like 20 minutes
Yeah.
or something like that. This is almost 20 minutes. So, Sad-Eyed Lady's about 12, 13 minutes. So it's, he does have an editor, but I think, he's very purposeful in what he does. And
Yeah.
so,
And even a song like Highland, it's a blues tune, and there is this blues structure that he kind of tells his tale, weaves this story upon. Whereas this is it's a risk, but who else is so famous that you can turn out a 17-minute single except Bob
Bob
Dylan?
let him do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, who would let him
And
do
it's
it?
original and it's new, so shut up.
Well, no, it's fine. Everybody saying, thank you, Bob, for turning this out. But I like the notion of the campfire. I like the notion that this song, and if someone, hasn't listened to it, even if you're a casual music listener, I think it's important. I think it's an important song. I think it's an important form of art. That if it's, some people might not think it's completely successful. At the beginning of it, I didn't think it was going to be a successful song. By the end of it, I said, this is one of the greatest things he's ever created.
Yeah.
And again, you're always influenced by what you just heard, but it's been a while now, and I go back to that song and I go, I'm going to be listening to this years from now and still thinking, I'm sure glad he recorded it the way he did.
And when he did, too.
When
he released it, it was timely.
I think it was meaningful.
As always.
It was meaningful to our country. It was meaningful to this audience. And, if you can create an art that has meaning, you've got something.
Always.
Throwaway music, like so much of it is now.
Yeah.
And the thing I really respect about him a lot is that he created that. It's, so many, I guess I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but, a lot of artists now, they don't even write their own songs. Or, I don't even know if most of them play their own instruments anymore. I'm talking about like the big poppy stuff that's.
Sure.
Oh.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a very personal statement, and
you don't even know who's playing it. Like, I think I just saw something recently. Fiona Apple said she played piano on the song.
Right.
And before you'd look in the liner notes and you see who plays, but it's not like he has everybody playing at one time. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's like he developed this on his own, and he dictates how the band plays too, pretty much.
Yeah. No. I think we're lucky to have it, and on that first day, the first day I listened to it, all those things that I like about Dylan, they're all kind of swirling around me. He's a risk taker. He's writing his own thing. He's punching his own ticket. We're lucky that he has the status that he could get away with it, because anyone could turn out a long song and it'll show up on Spotify somewhere and you search it out. But he's the most important artist in America, and hadn't had a release in a long time, and he turns out the thing you didn't expect.
Right.
That there's an art to that too.
Always. Yes.
The thing you don't expect.
That's great.
It was a wonderful surprise. I'm talking about like the whole double album or 2 CD album.
Yeah. So something was coming, and we didn't know when it was turned out that there was going to be an album. So that would make a good next show if we turn towards how that double album emerged.
Are you saying we're gonna have 2 positive shows in a row of Bob Dylan?
2 nice things? Heck yeah, he's my hero.
Yeah, we have to make up for.
Okay.
So that's it for Murder Most Foul. We're gonna be back. I think next time we're gonna talk about the album as a whole piece. I think that our conversation today has warranted that. So again, I'm Ryan Harsch.
I'm Chris LeRoy.
And I'm Patrick Judy.
There we go. And this has been Dylan Box. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
See you next time.
All right. Thank you soon.